Also, my other passion was photography, and I took a 10-year break away from broadcasting, and I managed a chain of professional camera stores. And they sent me the very first prototype of Photoshop to see what improvements it made. I was one of the very first people to get it. Now, I can honestly tell you, I know Photoshop like better than anything, better than regular computer programs. I took some of those images and zoomed in on those images. One, I thought it was kind of strange. Why is it always being taken in infrared mode on a camera, which is not a true infrared, but it's taken in that. What I did notice, there were a lot of the scenes you could clearly see it was a helicopter. Totally. And also, I don't know of alien craft that are going to have the same light combinations that's required by the FAA. You know, the lights
that's
on it.
That's always a dead giveaway.
That's the dead giveaway.
Yeah,
right.
Look for the FAA lights.
And
there's a really easy way to find out if it was Photoshopped. You just look for
no, it's not Photoshop.
data.
It's not Photoshop. What he's doing is he's taking his video camera, he's switching it onto infrared mode, okay, and from a distance, okay, being in infrared mode slightly puts it out of in distortion mode. And let's face it, are you going to see aliens going up and down the same mountains over and over again for years, several times a month?
I'm pretty sure I know which case you're talking about.
Pretty much, you probably do.
Yeah,
and I thought it was probably a helicopter. Is what I thought too.
And I'm not the.
I mean,
one.
lights in the sky are not usually very impressive because usually it's us. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you'll see lights in the sky, but when lights in the sky are interesting is when they do something that we can't do. Like if it shoots off out of the atmosphere suddenly, that's not us. If it goes and hits Mach 18 and does a 90-degree turn, that's not a helicopter or a drone.
No
But if
way.
it's just hovering over the mountains or in front of the mountains, it's probably a helicopter.
Well, don't you guys also realize if that was you and the UFO coming several times a month, doing the same routine over and over again in the same area, don't you think that the military would be dispatching fighters? Don't you think that the international airport would lock down? Because they wouldn't know if it's terrorists or what is going on. They would lock it down. But no, that doesn't happen. This is simple.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is unusual.
But yeah, I don't want to call a person, whatever. I just have had another person on my show. It had like 40 years experience making, videos and film of, different things, who is an expert. And he came up with the same thing I came up. But at least I did something a lot of people did. I made a lot of phone calls and they all told me the same thing. It's the helicopter. They're checking for radiation because people they forget. What did they do on the other side of those mountains in the 50s and all the way up to the late 60s? They detonated what?
Yeah.
Nuclear bombs.
Weapons.
There's a lot of that going on in that area. Well, there's so many UFO, quote unquote, UFO videos, and people are always sending them to me. And usually I'm like the big buzzkill, it's sort of like, well, I don't see anything unusual in this. It could be a helicopter, or oftentimes it'll be like, well, this could be a satellite, or it could be a mothership. I don't know, but it's a light in the sky, and I can't really do a whole lot with that. Now, if it was racing at Mach 18 or doing something that we can't do, or shooting off out of the atmosphere, my friend Shane Hurd, he had a light in the sky that he was watching. He's a field investigator for MUFON out in Phoenix, and he was videoing this thing, but his camera suddenly turned off, and of course, right when it shot out of the atmosphere. So he has like this perfect video of a little light hanging there in front of this mountain range, but the camera mysteriously shut off when it did something anomalous, which is kind of common. I think that they can kind of control their scenarios and who gets what. But apparently this thing shot right out of the atmosphere. And Shane is a very level-headed guy, and he's another guy. We tend to have to wear our skeptics hats, or else we'll look silly, because there's a lot of hoaxes out there and people trying to push stuff that isn't really ufology out there as ufology. But something like that, if it shoots out of the atmosphere, or punches a hole out of a cloud and then does a 90-degree turn, that's an interesting light in the sky. That, I'm really, really interested in. And if somebody's got footage of something like that, heck yeah, I want to see that. But if it's just like a hovering light over a mountain range, that's not too interesting, because usually it's a helicopter or something,
Oh, yeah.
And if it isn't, I don't have any way to prove that it's something other than a helicopter,
Oh, yeah. Now, Audrey, do you have any other questions for Earl before I let you go?
No, I will let you two get back to business. But I just wanted to say hi, wish you both well, and thanks for letting me call in. Okay.
Now, are you going to, well, I'm not going to say it. So you're going to be going down to the Battle of L.A., the event? I
am planning on going.
That sounds fun.
Hopefully my plans go through.
It's San Pedro, right?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this for the last few years. So.
Oh, wow. Well, have fun and take a lot of pictures.
Yeah, do.
If I go, I will.
I'm probably not going, Audrey, but I'd love to see photos that you get. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you for calling.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too. And bye-bye, kid.
You too, Audrey.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, Earl.
Bye. Audrey's cool people.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is so many hoaxers out there. There isn't a day I don't get 3 or 4 videos or pictures of UFOs. And, I will tell you this. Back in the early 2000s, when I was taking that break away from broadcasting, we used to import Russian infrared military binoculars. And we used to sell them. They were surplus. And we were selling them at that time for like $2,900. Very expensive. I took a pair home, and I got bored really quick looking at the neighbor's dog at night, or seeing the cats running around the backyard in Tacoma at that time. I looked in the sky, and what I saw was weird stuff. I saw stuff zooming, coming to a stop, and going to a complete different direction. One of our customers...
It's fun, huh?
It is really fun.
I've done that too, yeah.
Well, one of our customers ran the observatory in Puyallup, Washington. And I told him about it, and he kind of laughed at me, and he goes, yeah, sure. What have you been smoking, Gary? And I said, well, hey, come in. I'll let you borrow a pair for the weekend. He came in, comes back the following Monday, and he goes, I want a pair. Order me a pair. I go, well, I thought you thought I was smoking something. He goes, well, evidently I must be smoking something too, because I saw things like you were describing. And he said, the thing is, when they went with their telescope, they don't see any of this stuff. Well, pretty much everybody in that organization came in and ordered a pair because they were amazed at what they were seeing at night. Not every night, but it was quite often they would see things that wasn't a satellite, because a satellite just can't come to a dead stop and then zoom off another direction.
You'll see UFOs probably if you get a pair of those, because there are UFOs. But, the other thing is that there are spy satellites that aren't, that can do pretty amazing things now. And actually, spy satellites can go out of the ecliptic orbit. They can stop, and, they'll actually stop and take photographs of the ground below, or they even have satellite destroying satellites. China apparently destroyed one of our military satellites a couple of years ago, and it could have been an international incident, and I think they kind of, quieted it down because we didn't really want to go to war with China, obviously.
Well, what China did the other day, don't you? They tested out one of their laser guns off of one of their destroyers at one of our aircraft.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't read that, Gary. Really?
Yeah.
You have to send that to me. I didn't read that article.
It was been on BBC, MS, all the networks have, been talking about it. they actually took a shot at one of our aircraft, one of our spy planes.
Wow. Well, we're in the space age, but it's more Star Wars than 2001, isn't it? It's kind of interesting times.
Well,
As they say, the Chinese curse goes. Is it actually a Chinese curse? But may you live in interesting times is purported for a long time as to be a Chinese curse. We definitely live in interesting times. We're not the only government that has technological prowess out there now, and there's definitely a competition for the top of the hill, and space is the high frontier, and obviously, we signed treaties years and years ago that we were going to keep space to non-warlike, for discovery in the sciences and stuff. But we know it's been militarized. It's been militarized forever.
Oh yeah. Have you heard that there's some scientists that are now claiming that there is life in Mars in caves underground? And
yes.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, isn't it?
I wonder what type of life
I wonder how correct John Brandenburg is. He's been doing some talks recently. MUFON recently had him on MUFON television, and he actually had some pretty compelling evidence. He thinks that Mars there might have been like a nuclear war, millennia ago, and who knows? I mean, the Earth, I think that probably intelligence has risen and fallen more times than we know on this planet. And who's to say that sort of thing had never happened on Mars? I'm not going to jump out and say that because you see all the photographs of, here's a picture of a crab on Mars. Here's a picture of a broken down automobile.
Yeah, or an alien.
Yeah, and a lot of that is pareidolia, where we sort of fill in the blanks if we see something that looks kind of symmetrical or something, and that's part of our own psychological makeup. But there are certain things that are on Mars that are interesting and strange looking. I mean, I still think that the face on Mars is very compelling. The fact that there's what looks like a pyramid that's next to it. That's compelling, and I'm not going to go out and say for sure that is a real thing, but I'm not going to say that it's not either. It could very well be. We don't know what happened on Mars millennia ago. Wow. And it's strange as seasonal, the oxygen rises up. They are finding methane on Mars, and that methane is a byproduct of life. If you have methane in the atmosphere, that is a byproduct of life. There's really nothing else that can cause that. And they're finding out that with the seasons on Mars, when it gets warmer, the oxygen rises in the atmosphere, and it's regular. They're tracking it. And scientists are not going on record about it. Some are more now than ever before, from NASA, actually. And I won't be surprised if we get a little bit more lucidity from them and a little more openness soon, because it's getting pretty obvious that Mars may actually not be a dead planet after all.
Well, hey, you never know. Maybe they had some type of nuclear exchange or something even different than nuclear exchange at one time. It blew out their atmosphere and destroyed their planet, but maybe they went underground. Who knows?
Who knows?
We don't.
There's two different sites in India where 5,000 years ago it looks like there might have been a nuclear exchange. And if you read the Vedas, the Sanskrit from thousands of years ago in India, that's the story that they tell in it. And it sounds very much so like we were visited, that there were two rival groups and that they actually warred against each other, and the people kind of paid for it that were living in India back 5,000 years ago. And I take that very seriously. I worked for a Indian family up until just